Hey there, you're listening to Making Spaces, the podcast about community, culture, and making new connections, hosted by my good Judy, my friend and yours, Sarah Heath. On this podcast, we're having conversations about design, literally making spaces, and how some of the most inclusive spaces aren't always the most inviting. And we're talking about what it means to make space for one another. With the world the way it is right now, we need to find ways to have conversations across lines of radical difference. So join Sarah each week as she tackles the intersection of design and practical spirituality with conversations with some of the most fabulous guests you're ever going to meet. Some will talk about actual design, some of us will talk about relational design, but no matter what, it's an incredible time. So grab yourself a cup of whatever you like, and welcome to Making Spaces with Sarah Heath.
This is a very special episode of Making Spaces. Making Spaces is a podcast that really has sought to make space for us to have some tough conversations. So I do want to let you know that this may have some triggering moments in it. This is a conversation around the death of George Floyd and all the protests and everything that has happened in response to that. The conversation is with one of my dear friends, Pastor Lamont Hartman. Lamont is someone who has formed churches and started churches and been part of communities that were focused on racial reconciliation and inclusion. I'm grateful for his voice in all of this. As someone who is not a person of color, I really wanted to make sure that we were hearing voices of folks that engage in that work and engage in that work well. I do want to say that these are our opinions that we're offering, and we're just trying to give a helpful voice to it. I was the one who edited this episode, so it is not, the sound isn't great because we were talking over phone and it wasn't as clear or crisp as it usually is. And I'm thankful for friends like Josie who helped me fix the sound a little bit. But I think the content is so important that I wanted to get this released without taking the time maybe to tighten it up to the level that you're used to. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
You know, you're the homie. I appreciate you. I do whatever I got you. Whatever you need from me, I got you.
I know, but this is not a time where people need to have more things put on their plate. But this will just be a short conversation about making space during a time of what really feels like ridiculousness and pressure, and the Black community being asked once again to grieve publicly, to explain themselves, like this thing. So I thought my friend who does racial reconciliation for part of his work portfolio, maybe he could share some wise words, and then I can edit it and just share with people quickly to say, like, hey, if we're going to make space for each other during this time, it will look like this. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions and keep it real brief because I know you are busy and you deserve a rest as well.
Yeah, no, thank you.
So, friend, we are talking, I guess it's 2 days now since the latest police brutality video came out. And it's, number one, I know there are multiple feelings about even having the video. I'm disturbed by how much it's been posted. I think it's a reality that people need to see. How are you dealing with the images?
Yeah. I don't know. I think they're hard to process, hard to deal with, hard to handle. I think death in itself, seeing someone murdered, lynched, is traumatizing, and I cannot help but to, when I saw the video, my first reaction reminded me of Michael Brown and the after effects of leaving his body lifeless body laying on the ground for hours, whether it's protocol or not, but lying in the streets, in the neighborhood for all to see. The time that it laid there, it infuriated me. And in the same way, watching this man's knee in the lifeless body of Gregory Floyd infuriated me. Mm-hmm. It made me feel once again, that once again, like black life is not valued in this country, but like to a evil, sinister degree.
Yeah.
And that was my first reaction. That's all I know. I mean, the death. I will say I am one. I watched it twice. I wanted to, sometimes things don't seem real, so I want to see it again. I only watched it twice, but the first thought was he was dead, and you kept your knee there. That's all. That's all the image. That's the only thing that is stuck in my mind. That his knee stayed in his neck. That troubles me. So
Yeah.
I don't know how to process. I can't move past that. There's no way to explain it. There's no way to.
You don't
there's
have
no
to.
good way. There's no good way to. I think I'm not sure that if I'm not sure I'm capable of processing to the fullest, and I'm not sure many of my pastor friends, African American pastor friends, I'm not sure they're able to process it. So it's tough.
I think one of the hard things is recognizing the reality of things like this happen. And when we have public platforms, whatever they may be, we're expected to see it. And then you're expected to offer words from it. And I want to apologize to you as your friend if me coming to you saying, because I think when a population has already been asked to experience just oppression, then to be asked to guide those of us who are like, I want to know how to help, it's double pressure. So I thank you even for 2 days later being willing to talk about it, because you are not just a black man yourself, you are the father of black children. You are a leader of the community. You are trying to help those of us who are not people of color, do a better job of being present. So I want to thank you for that. And I know that really I didn't want any answers. If there was any way I could amplify a voice that is being helpful in this time. And I also know a lot of my friends who do this work are tired. And I wanted to honor that as well, knowing that they are not ready to share yet.
I will say thank you. Thank you for having done enough work to recognize that and to understand that and to empathize with many of us. But the struggle is real. I mean, this is what I'm called to do, and to not do it doesn't seem right, and to do it sometimes feels a heavy weight. But I think you said the key thing is that we're friends, and you're someone that has has continued to walk with me in my darkest moments, and I want to do the same with you. And yeah, that's the thing. There's friendship, there's relationship. So that we're good. I'm thankful to be here and thankful to have an opportunity to share. I really am. Like, it's tough, but at the same time, what I'm not. I understand the word tired. I do understand the word tired. But we've all, as people of color, as a black man, and I know for even black women, we've never had an opportunity to rest. There'll never be a time of rest. There's no rest until there's real equality. Our forebears didn't have time to rest, right? So we're tired, but the struggle continues. And that's the reality. And so I think the best thing that I could do is to continually, mentally and emotionally stay healthy, so that I can clearly articulate the truths of the gospel and my reality and the intersection of those two things, so that it may impact someone that is willing to listen, to learn, and to do something about it.
When you think about the way that folks can, what is a helpful reaction? And I know that it's helpful for some and maybe not for others, but what do you feel like is a helpful reaction? And I always feel like our job is to listen sometimes, but I also know just listening isn't enough. So I know too that it's going to be different for different people, but for you and for your experience and for the people that you're in community with, what do you feel like is a helpful reaction? And if there isn't an answer to that, what's a non-helpful reaction?
Oh, I got a lot of non, but I will tell you that I will get to the helpful, but the non-helpful, is the reality of picking and choosing which lynching that you will post on your Facebook. Picking and choosing the low-hanging fruit of a man made in God's image, dying, being convicted, tried, and executed on a street corner. That's low-hanging fruit. To post that one, you don't deserve a clap on the back, like there's Alton Sterling, there's Philando Castile, there's ones that there's Mike Brown, Mike Brown that we should have still been fighting for justice. There's the acquittal over and over again. And so what we don't do, what's not helpful, is just to post and go about your day. And so I think what is helpful is, as you again mentioned, the reason I would, honestly, the reason I talk to you, Sarah, because I know you've done the work and you continue to do the work in the same ways that I want to humble myself under female leadership is the same way that you humble yourself under black or brown leadership. Like, it's the same posture of humility. And so because you've done the work, when Reverend Sarah says, let's do something, we do it, right?
Although sometimes I think this is work that is never done. It's so funny because I've said to you so many times, because we've been friends for a while, like, I want to have you on my podcast. I'm sad that this is like the reason. We have a fun friendship, and it's the only reason I would trust it to be able to have these and I've got other friends too that I would reach out to, but just knowing that right now their plate is full as they try to love on their community in the midst of this. So I appreciate it, but yeah, it's hard. I think sometimes, we don't post about things. I have had that fear of, I don't need to be another white woman saying, look what we got to get justice, if I don't follow it up with sacrifice. And I think that's I always want to be helpful, but it's better to be wrong and maybe like be an ally that doesn't get it right and is willing to go, oh man, I'm sorry, I tried, than one that is like just so afraid of losing followers or losing an audience or whatever it might be. And so I'm grateful for the real friendships that I have, that I can say, hey, I'm an idiot. Like, am I saying this wrong? Like, so yeah, posting things without willing to really let it sit in you, not out of guilt, like posting something so it's like, that checked off my guilt list.
Right. Yeah. And what I was going to say is, you have done right and you're doing right. And I would ask others, if you want to know what to do and the right thing to do, a great step is, like you said, amplify other voices. Like, don't show that you know it and you've done the work. Allow a person of color, if they're willing and if they're at a place where they're emotionally ready, to share, because those experiences are nuggets, are precious pearls that I believe that could help move people towards racial equality. And so creating space for other voices is huge. And I would say that the creating space is beautiful, but to live in that space with a person of color. Don't just create the space and occupy the space, but live in it with them. Live in that. To me, that's the next step, or the larger goal is to live in the space with them. Don't allow the person of color to continue to bear the weight of the injustice, but begin to take on some of that injustice as much as you can, like to live in it with them. There could have been a person willing. You're saying that, right? I feel like you're saying the things that exactly need to happen in terms of making the sacrifice. Sacrifice for me would have been someone going and putting themselves in harm's way to make sure that this black man lived, and that's what we need. That's what we need. That's the real.
Our bodies in the way.
Because our bodies are in the way. Our bodies, we can't even run out of the way. Like there's no way to run out of the line of fire. No. There's no way to run. There's no room we can go to. There's no place in the house that we can hide in. There's a target, and I believe, I've been really pondering the idea of Matthew 5. It says, "Mourn with those that mourn, for they shall be comforted." I think when we mourn, when we live the experience with one another, that there's a comfort, that Spirit brings comfort to us. And I don't know how that looks. I won't be honest, but I trust in His Word. I'm a person of faith, and I wouldn't be doing this work. This work feels like it's not moving, and this work feels like it's never going to happen. But it's the faith and the hope that I have that the Redeemer will redeem all things to Himself.
When you so obviously just posting the convenient things to post isn't helpful. What other things are you finding to be maybe helpful or non-helpful, with the recognition that this isn't the case for everyone, but with our friendships and our community?
Yeah, I think asking, I've been getting a lot of one-on-one people, that are not close to me, that I'm not co-laboring with, a lot of one-on-one, wanting to have a conversation. And, that's, asking, as you said, asking a person of color to teach you instead of doing the work isn't helpful. It isn't helpful. Yeah. For me to talk to you, and if I have 10 Sarahs in my life, to talk to 10 Sarahs, like I have a Sarah in my life that I respect and I co-labor with, and so I talk to Sarah, and Sarah talks to a larger audience, and maybe that has an impact, right? But to talk to 10 people that that over and over again, it's not helpful. And so I think ultimately, and what we're hitting on is that doing the work yourself, the information's there. And I think we're lazy. The information is there. You don't need any more confirmations that black bodies don't matter. Like you don't need any. This all there. You see it. And so now, where are the places that I can go and learn, and who can I go and learn from? And so a posture. What is helpful is taking on a posture of learning, and learning. Not that you don't. It's like, I think that humility is huge when we walk in humility with one another, because taking on a posture of learning doesn't make you less than. It puts you in a place to grow in an area that you may be weak in the same way that I may be. I have a PhD in being black, so I know about black, not just any type of black. I mean like blue black. I know I'm a light-skinned guy that's blue black. Like I understand. I have a PhD in being black, but at the same time, what I don't have is a PhD in being a woman. I don't have, and I need to have a posture of learning in terms of women in ministry and women called to lead all over in every space, in the marketplace, in the church, wherever, and learning and getting under someone that I can learn from. And that's the right thing to do, taking a posture of humility, not that I'm less than, but that I need to learn in this area.
That's beautiful. I think when people wax poetic about a population, whatever it might be, I'm like, do you actually have those people in your life? And I don't mean like in your life, like your token friend, but like the person you would call when you're crying. I mean, I've called you about a breakup. Like that's the level to me. If you would call someone when you are weak, like it's fostering real friendship that allows space for, man, I don't know what I'm doing here. Are you comfortable enough to be able to say to me, I can't talk to you about this yet? Because it's weary making to be the representation, right? So I'm grateful that you feel like we can conspire together in our different fields, because our bodies are unique and our bodies are different, and they are not something we can hide or pass. I can't pass as a male leader, and you cannot pass as a white man or whatever. So I think it's beautiful to have authentic relationships, but I think the getting yourself in the position of doing some work before you engage those friendships so that you're not in a friendship of consumer. That's something I learned from Latasha Morrison, who I'll put some links in our show notes, but this idea of being quiet so you can learn and hear is helpful, and not so that amplifying other voices is important. So yeah, okay, that's helpful. Is there anything else that I just want to, what are things that, when these things happen and people are looking for, I love that people posted like, I'm looking for something to do, and people posted reading lists. I think that's helpful. And then risking our bodies when we see something. I know for me, I've started paying attention to things in a way that I didn't before. Are there other suggestions? I just want to make sure that.
I think some people are doing it now. I think Sean King has really helped us in leading the way and how what we need to do to bring about real systemic change. And so I think, there's the first level, just get the knowledge, and with the knowledge, become an advocate, like actually speak about it. And people starting to, before they get the knowledge, the problem is they're speaking about it on their social media platforms, but they don't have the knowledge. So get the knowledge, then educate yourself, then and then advocate, and then actually move past advocacy to true change, which is making the phone calls. Maybe that falls in advocacy, but like make it. Sean is showing us how to make phone calls, call these people, like bombard them, because they have to move or they will be moved. These leaders that are quitting and ignoring these modern day lynchings are in the way of progress. And so stepping out of our bubbles, our Christian bubbles, and stepping into the work is super important. And I think that level. And then lastly, I think the last step, because what I learned in this work, I'm pretty intuitive. I learned that this conversation, this work will cost you something. And so that last thing, the last step is to get in the way, to sacrifice it. If you call somebody a brother, if you say, man, I love you, or sister, I love you, I'm there for you, be there for them. Like, get in the way, like protect them, like have their back. This is the season, like, again, we say friends. I know that with Sarah, Heath, and Lamont Hartman, we're friends because you've had my back. You've had my back, right? And that's important. That's what it means. When I needed it, there was people, white brothers and sisters, that really had my back. There was other ones that didn't have my back. There was a lot of people that didn't, but the ones that did, we can work. We can move together forward, and we can bring about the change that we want to see. And so, to me, those are the steps as I see it, and the first things that come to mind now. I'm sure I'll get off this podcast and like, darn, I should have said this and that.
We have a long friendship, and there's a lot of space to be made, so we can do another episode. I think I just wanted to, probably what I'll do is put out 2 episodes next week. I've got one with just so happens a friend who is a person of color who was already scheduled to be out, so that's a different one. But it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be a reaction, because I think when we don't react, silence I mean, for me, silence feels worse when people, when you go through something. So as a pastor, when I've dealt with people who have gone through death or getting a cancer diagnosis, or, for me, when I've gone through, horrible things and nobody, like, people just don't know what to say, so they don't say anything. That feels worse than saying the wrong thing in some ways. Like, if you say the wrong thing and we have a good enough relationship, I can say, whoa, that was wrong. But just silence can be deadly. So I appreciate you just sharing those things. I would love it if you can just copy and paste it. I will post this, and I would love to have some resources for people to really make space for people who are different than you. And that's always going to come at a cost. It might come at a cost that you get embarrassed because you say the wrong thing. It might come at a cost that, like, you literally have to be awkward and weird and step in front of something that you see that feels like an injustice. Like, as a Canadian, there's nothing weirder to me than doing something like that. But, like, when you risk yourself and sometimes actually your safety, you are, I hope, being a real friend, and it's going to come at a risk. And so, yeah, if you want to send me resources, or I know Austin Channing Brown had a great list of stuff for people to do the work, being ready to do the work, and at whatever level. I know people are emotionally and mentally exhausted, so whatever level you can do is enough, and then pushing yourself to the next one.
Latasha has a Whiteness 101. Latasha Morrison with Be the Bridge has a Whiteness 101 kind of seminar. I think it may be 8 to 10 weeks that you can walk through. I think, those resources are there from knowledgeable people. And so, yeah, I'll come up with some things. And you may already know we kind of dibble in the same material, so you probably have the same stuff I have. But
dude, no, you've got a little bit more than me. I mean, honestly, that's not false humility. Like, literally, I do the work that I can do in the spaces that I can. And then I'm always made aware with, I think we hit a pain point where you go, I have more work to do. I thought I had crossed that one off I thought my bias was, I thought I was doing well. And then you go, I feel uncomfortable in this space. Why do I feel uncomfortable in this space? Has nothing to do with them. It's my perception of people. So I'm grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful for this time to chat. I will have you on the podcast. We will set a time apart. Thank you for trying to find some headphones for us to have a conversation that's a bigger one around space making. But this was really just sort of a Band-Aid for we are triaging an emergency situation. And I've got planes flying over me. I don't know what's going on, but I am grateful that I could chat with you in this. And thank you for being the kind of friend that I could call and say, I don't know what to do. Do you mind hopping on?
My pleasure, friend.
Yeah. Friends, if you're listening to this, and there are lots of great voices to hear, but Lamont is a great voice to listen to. There are other voices as well that we will post, and I think that's always helpful, just to figure out how you can align yourself, or at least learn from people who have done some work, and we're never done. There's always more work to do if we're willing to do it. So thank you so much for engaging this conversation. I am in no way an expert, and so I just appreciate it when I'm able to provide a platform or give more of an amplification to voices that are doing really incredible work around this sort of stuff. I hope that you were able to get some ideas, and even if it was just helpful to get some new questions to ask even. I also hope that you're taking care of yourself. This is a difficult time as we as a country, and as really a global situation of pandemic, and dealing with our own mental health and our own self-care, and in the midst of it, dealing with the pain of others. And so hope you will check out this week's full episode that comes out on Tuesday, and that you'll check out the new YouTube channel. This was not edited by Stephen Burnett, but the next one will be, I promise. And again, the song is It Can Be Done. And that track comes via Epidemic Sound.